I don't know. He makes a ton of money. Let's bring in the one of the best personalities going in college basketball, Mr. Fanta. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. It's good to be with you. It is hard to believe that 3 weeks from tomorrow is when championship week really gets revved up for you guys with the Huskers and the Blue Jays. They'll likely have a bye in the Big East tournament, but it is that time of year now. The madness is in the air.
It's interesting because it seems like the last couple of weeks, like the broadcasts everywhere now doing play-by-play. So I get a little bit more of like your thoughts real time in game. How much does John Fanta struggle or embrace the way games are officiated that kind of dictate how you do your job?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I think the first thing that I would say is we get the opportunity to talk to the officials before every game we do. Now, uh, I say you need to take the opportunity. Not everybody takes the opportunity. I'll just be honest with you. In our field, that is very real. I always think like it's something you have to do. So I will always talk to the refs before the game, and I think what people need to realize is, and if you criticize an official, you're a fan. You're welcome to. We've all been there. We've all gotten upset at a call.
Mhm.
They are humans, and they know when they're wrong after the fact,
Mhm.
and they beat themselves up like no other. These guys are. I mean, they're. I've had refs in an airport the morning after a game, after blowing a call, and they are just distraught. I mean, they want to end their time doing it because that's how hard they take it. So, look, there have been some calls this year that have certainly, like any year, but even more so. I just think in our era of social media that everything gets seen and heard, so things get amplified, and missed calls happen in these games. And I think the tough part is like when people say to me, "Well, what kind of penalties do they face?" Well, people get penalized at their jobs. I mean, we don't want to hear what the AD coach conversations are with their respective leagues when certain games or calls happen because they surely cannot be pretty. And I've been made aware of some of them over the years, including this year. And I can tell you right now, we're not talking minutes that are spent on this. We are talking hours, if not days, spent on sometimes a 3-second call. How do I, as a play-by-play guy, weigh that? Look, if there's a missed call, you can't ignore it. I always say, like, you owe it to the viewer to be honest with them. We have to tell facts. It's actually a really good point that I'm on with you guys because a couple of days ago, uh, and sorry for going long on the first answer,
No, no,
but
no. You're way good.
Ryan Kalkbrenner gets hurt.
Mhm.
And I don't know what you guys were feeling. You could tell me if otherwise, but I'm watching this happen in real time and I'm thinking, are we watching the end of his career right now?
Yep.
Yep.
Thought he broke his foot.
I did too. So Ravi and Damon, my thought was, okay, as a broadcaster, because our world is what have you done for me lately? We need to start talking about the career that this kid has had.
Mm.
To put this in perspective, like if this kid's season or career is over, this is a very tragic way for it to end. We didn't say it could be career ending, but if you watch the broadcast, you heard us say, look, you're talking about one of the all-time Creighton greats. You're talking about somebody who is one of the best players in America. Here are his all-time statistics. He just passed Ralph Sampson in scoring today. He just passed Baylor Shireman. First 3 tweets. John, is he dying? Hey, John.
Although I will give the Johnnies credit, even when you host your pods and stuff, those guys get after it, man. The St. John fandom, because sometimes I'll chime in or I'll pop in and I'll see what's going on, and those guys they're pretty passionate.
Hey, John, do you think he's better than Willis Reed? Hey, do you think he's like a significant folks, folks, it's television.
Yeah.
We were saying Willis coached at Creighton, and honestly, when that kid got to the scores table, if you're a Creighton follower, weren't you like, holy crap?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't either.
I
I
couldn't.
was shocked. I was shocked. We had that package ready to talk about Willis and the Garden and Creighton. We didn't have it ready to talk about that. We were like, this is the perfect time for this package.
Yeah.
Of course, people are like, what an irresponsible journalistic thing to compare the 1970 NBA Finals to a Big East regular season game. We were just having some fun. He shocked us all when he re-entered the game. Here's my point. My point is, you got to tell it like it is. You're never going to get it always right. I can't be on the air and start blasting the officials to a level that's insane. But
and you had a good feel early that it was going to be a physical game. They were letting them play off the ball. I mean, it's the Big East, right? You've seen it 1,000 times.
It is the Big East, but on a replay, if there was one, Ashworth had a collision, they didn't call it, and we're like, yeah, that I don't know if the officials told the players that was all right, but like that's a foul. But here's the thing, guys. I got to tell you, the last thing I'm going to say. If we say something, the refs got our numbers.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that can of worms. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm kind of glad you brought up officiating because I do think it's, I'll complain about calls, but I think for me, the bigger thing that I focus on is sort of stylistically how they choose to call a game, right? So we talk about Big East officiating and how, DB and I talk all the time. A Big East game is going to be officiated differently than an ACC game. It's going to be officiated differently than a Big Ten game, right? Like, how do you ever get a sense when you're talking to these officials and having these meetings with the refs of like, hey, they might call it a little tighter today. They're kind of more aware of, because just as a Creighton fan, right? I watched that St. John's game and I know early it's like, if they're going to call the game like this, St. John's going to win. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to allow St. John's to beat people up on the perimeter, they're going to win most of those games, right? Do you ever get a sense in those meetings of if they're going to try and keep a lid on that a little bit better? Because I know teams like St. John's make it really hard because of how physical they can be. You could call everything every 3 seconds.
Right. I think that's a problem, right? Because you don't want to be calling whistles the entire game. But with the way that they can wear you down defensively, sometimes that crosses the line where maybe you have to say, hey, that's – but you do get a feel. You get a feel for the type of game it's going to be when you're talking to the officials. And I think for them, heading into Sunday's game at least, they didn't want to be the reason why the game got decided. But sometimes, as you said, when you're not calling fouls or you're calling certain things and not other things, you still can be a reason why the game is decided. So, look, I actually – just calling the game, this is unbiased outside Omaha, outside New York party here. I thought the game was pretty fine. The reason why I say that is I haven't seen St. John's get called for those fouls all year.
Right.
They're the aggressor. They just swarm you. And they're relentless. I mean, it's really amazing what Rick Pitino has done with this team to see them shoot the ball the way they do from the free throw line on Sunday. They're shooting 50% from the line in a de facto regular season title game. I know things can change, but like that's what it was at this point. And they didn't do a lot of those little things, but they just defend. They get up in you, and it's hard to officiate that. And I am very curious to see how officials in the first and second round of the NCAA tournament officiate them. Because people have to remember this. When the officials are out there for the first and second round, like the teams, they're also trying to advance. If they officiate a bad game, they're out. It's like American Idol. And you want to be one of the last three standing in the championship game. And if you sing a bad song, have a bad game, you're done. You are done in the tournament.
That'd be interesting to watch St. John play Tennessee or something. Let me ask you.
Oh man, I mean that is a bar fight if I've ever seen one.
Let me ask you something, John, because I don't think it's certainly not, and maybe it's because of Kalkbrenner's prowess on the defensive end, but I don't think Ashworth takes away votes from Kalk. How does St. John keep Player of the Year discussions not being about the tandem of their backcourt? Or is there somebody else? I don't know if Nova wins enough games, or is there somebody else that belongs in the Player of the Year discussion other than Ryan or maybe Richmond?
Well, I think Ryan belongs in it because I think Ryan is so invaluable on both ends of the floor. The things that he just takes away from your offense are limitless. It's if he's not blocking the shot, he's making you think about blocking. He's going to block the shot. So he's got to be in the mix. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean,
Again.
I think so. I'd be stunned if he didn't. And if it's a share with Stevie Mitchell, like let's just call it what it is. The Big East could rename their Defensive Player of the Year the Ryan Kalkbrenner Defensive Player of the Year award. And if they hadn't done it with Ewing, but they should have. But the fact is, like he's in the mix because of Creighton's success and all that he does in a game. If you're St. John's, like I agree with you, Damon, it is a bit of a problem with the fact that they've got multiple guys, and then how do the votes get distributed? I would say R.J. Lewis is the best player for St. John's on the entire season. Richmond didn't really come on until the past month. So now everyone's watched the last couple weeks. They're like, yeah, Big East Player of the Year, Big East Player of the Year. I saw this. I've seen this before, both with Richmond, now years ago with Isaiah Whitehead, he came on like in the last month and change. And everyone's like, yeah, you should get Player of the Year. It's like, well, no, Player of the Year is judged on the whole season. So I would give, and Cam Jones has to be in the mix.
Sure.
Although I can't figure him out now, and maybe it coincides with Marquette's up and down
The roller coaster. Let's see how they finish.
Yeah, that's the thing for KJ.
They're in action tonight. They're hosting Seton Hall. Seton Hall's riding a high, but frankly, it's had a really, really rough year. And so if you're Cam Jones, you've had a week. If his legs are still not under him tonight, I don't know if they're ever going to come back because he's been struggling a little bit. But you got to remember, right now, if you asked a national media person, Cam Jones, they'd say, yeah, probably second-team All-American now. It would just be hard to believe that a second-team All-American couldn't also win Big East Player of the Year. I think it's going to get split. I think it could get split 2 or 3 ways. Back in 2021 or 2020, I think. Yeah, we had a 3-way tie. It's just how it went. It was really weird. It was Mahmoud Kelashvili and Robinson Earl and I want to say Gillespie. It was a really weird year. It was weird because Villanova had 2 Big East players of the year. Like that's just strange, man.
So, John, speaking of Villanova and a couple other teams here, I guess I don't want to ask this in a negative way, but I kind of have to. Who have you been most disappointed by over the course of the season? Obviously, Villanova's got the incredible individual effort by Eric Dixon, but that hasn't really translated to wins the way they've wanted them to. I think some people expected more out of Xavier. And then you've got Georgetown, who started off the non-conference really well and has really struggled in Big East play. Is there a team that you were kind of expecting more out of from that group, or maybe maybe somebody from the field that you're like, I kind of thought there was more there and we just haven't seen it?
Well, biggest national disappointments, Kansas State as well. I mean, Kansas State spent millions on their roster and they're 500.
Yeah.
Kansas, they're 5-5 in their last 10. How? Well, AJ Storr hasn't panned out, and they haven't been a consistent three-point shot-making team. So in that regard, they've been disappointing. North Carolina's been very disappointing.
Very much so.
I mean, now they have to look hard in the mirror. Missing the tournament 2 out of 3 years. When's the last time that was acceptable in Chapel Hill? I think you have to make a move.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just my take. Indiana's been mostly disappointing, and that job search is fascinating, to say the least. I think in the Big East,
sounds interesting because of Matt. You get an Ivy League transfer who's capable of being all world. Like he is. I don't know why he just takes some time off, but then you have another one and done potentially. But it would be fast forwarding for Georgetown in the totality of Cooley's coaching job there. He just hasn't had a ton of time.
No,
would you make the case for Georgetown?
Well, I don't think that they've been a big disappointment. I thought that, I mean, here's the thing. Over the last 3 years, they had combined for 4 conference wins.
Yeah.
And so now they've got 6. So in this season alone. So look,
Yeah.
I want to see how they finish. They have Providence at home tomorrow. And if Sorber's healthy, it's a game you really need to win. Because then you go to Creighton and UConn. You're probably not winning there. You host Marquette, you host Villanova, you're at DePaul. You need 2 or 3. And if they go 9-11 in his second year after you combined for 4 conference wins in the previous 3 years, and you turn that into 9 in one season, now you head into next year and you say 2 things. Okay, 2 things got to happen here. Numero uno, you got to start scheduling, man. Hey, enough is enough. And this is my thing with teams all across the nation, but the Big East in particular. Schedule people. It does you no good to play the Little Sisters of the Poor. It does you no good. Well, why are you doing that to yourself? Well, it helps us grow. It helps us identify roles. BS. That's ridiculous. Michigan played 2 quad 4 games. They actually lost a couple of games early in the last possession. Were they in the top 16 reveal set by the NCAA Selection Committee Center? You bet they were. Arizona started the year 4-5. People said, I don't think they're going to make the NCAA tournament. Were they in the top 16 reveal of the country on Saturday? You bet your butt they were. Play people. Play people. It helps your sport. It helps your program. It helps your brand. It could help your NIL. It helps your television partners. You think your TV partners want to televise you taking on an NEC school, a back-end MEAC school, a random MAC school? I'm sorry, but they don't want to do that. Should you still play 4 or 5 games against those schools? Fine. Some schools are playing 6, 7, or 8. I am not okay with that. And as a coach of your program, why would you be? There's no harm by taking a loss to a quality team in November. None at all. Nothing. There's a ton of harm if you get picked off and you pay the team to play you.
Let me ask you about coaching prowess, because I think it's at a high level. It is tough to win on the road in the Big East, and there are some coaches that are held in high regard. For you, do you need to see how the end of the season plays out before your Coach of the Year candidate?
Well, in the Big East, I think it's Rick Pitino because his team's at the top. And if they finish in the top, it's hard for me to go against him because I thought they'd be like 3rd or 4th in the league, and they've been 1st for the season. And I think Greg McDermott's done a remarkable job and deserves votes and could end up sharing it with Rick. But I kind of lean towards Rick. I do. By the way, I didn't really answer your question on Big East disappointment. Villanova. I mean, they just haven't been good enough under Kyle Neptune. Last week you beat St. John's, then you get blown out by Providence. Come on, man. Like that can't happen. That was just a weak performance. They shot the ball poorly. They only managed 62 points against the Providence team that only has 9 scholarship players currently. So, Coach of the Year, I like to see things finish out, but I think Pitino's in the driver's seat here. You know, one thing that you have to sometimes do is this, right? I think there's a sector of people out there who are like, well, I don't like Rick Pitino. Okay, well, that's all right. I mean, you don't have to like, people. That's why he's compelling. But if we just remove the name, and you're like, this coach has done this with his team. They were picked. I think they were picked 4th in the Big East.
I think that's right.
I'd have to go back and look. And they're 23-4. Yeah, that's probably the Coach of the Year in the league.
Oh, so along, and there are a ton of national guys, but man, you're giving that description versus expectation. How do you not head down to Louisville to talk to it be in the conversation of National Coach of the Year?
Yeah, look, I mean that's a good point. By the way, St. John's was picked 5th. They weren't even picked 4th. They were picked 5th in the league. Yeah, Louisville, he's done a terrific job. I'm not surprised because of the ACC having a wide open doorway.
Oh, but they're bad.
It's a bad conference.
For an 18-team league, that league has found a way to be at its worst. I mean, my goodness, that conference is not compelling at all. And I just watched Virginia.
So that may hurt him. Oh, How about that? And listen, Duke is I've said this. Duke is fantastic defensively, but,
Yeah, but
that was embarrassing.
It's not even a fair fight, and they are. I mean, David, here's the scary thing: Duke's offense is higher rated than their defense
because they're efficient. Yeah, they're efficient.
Like that is an amazing stat because I think they're an elite defensive team. They just limit you. They say, you know what you're best at? We're going to take that away. Mm-hmm. We're going to take away those 2 or 3 things that you do. Oh, we'll take away the perimeter. And if they make any perimeter shots, forget it. Like last night, they started 6 of 11 from 3. The amazing thing is, this proved to me that Clemson, like I'm going to take Clemson to win a tournament game or 2. Duke shot 12 of 24 at Clemson. If I had said that to you before the game, you would have been like, yeah, how much did Duke win by? Yeah. Would have been like, no, they lost. Which is amazing because Clemson's the one team in the league that can give them problems physically. Clemson plays physical basketball. They grind you down on the interior, and they defend at their level too. So look, I agree with you. Pat Kelsey deserves a look. National Coach of the Year to me is sealed up, though. I mean, I know like Dennis Gates has done a great job at Missouri. I'm very impressed with what he's been able to do. I think Ben McCollum down over at Drake deserves a real look. He's had a terrific.
I know the Big East got to be looking at Drake.
I'll say you mean future Big East coach Ben McCollum?
Yeah, he could be. I mean, he certainly could be. Dusty May's been very good at Michigan. Tom Izzo's had a sensational year, but I think Bruce Pearl's going to get National Coach of the Year. Like, how could you not give it to him? His team wasn't in the preseason top 10, and they've firmly been the best team in America.
Hey, real quick, we're up against it with 30 seconds. Who do you like better, Florida or Bama?
Florida, because I see a better team defensively. But I think Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin, when fully healthy, they just got hand-logged back. Alabama alarmed me on Saturday because I never thought they found any sort of a groove to contain Auburn. They let Auburn run their stuff and run it with ease. And Alabama can score. But guys, at some point in the shot-making world, when shots aren't falling, can you get back and get some stops? Did it ever feel like Auburn was uncomfortable in that game?
No. They got downhill pretty much.
You got it. Next time we get you back, John, you got to figure out, help me, why I don't trust Sears. For as savvy and as long as he's played, he would drive me crazy.
Yeah, sometimes the best players are the ones who drive you craziest, and he kind of fits that mold. But at the end of the day, that could hold you back from winning a championship. Can they get to the Final Four? Sure. But right now, I think Florida, because Florida went into Auburn and won. I got to go results-based. Florida went there and won. Only Florida and Duke have been able to say that.
That's our guy, John Fanta. He covers everything college basketball, calls games on Fox Sports. John, we appreciate you as always. Always good to talk to you.
Thanks, John.
Always great to talk with you guys, too. Thanks for having me.